Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, I'm going to show you the clips of what went down this morning when Congress spoke. I did not live stream it because I was live streaming with course members, which I do every day that the market is open. Here's the scoop. I'm going to play these clips and highlights for you, but at the end, I want you to stay tuned for this. At the end, I'm going to let you know what the congressional schedule is, the way it's scheduled right now. For right now, though, let's get into the clips. I do want to mention it's New Year's Eve here, which means if you want a last-minute tax deduction, check out the courses down below. Use that Holiday 2020 coupon code on any of the courses. You get a great price, and you'll get a last-minute tax deduction. Confirm with your CPA, though, that it is tax deductible. And I would obviously want you to verify that with your CPA. Now, also, keep in mind that you can bundle up for these programs. Use the bundle options that are on the webpage, and then add the coupon on top of that. It's the best way to do it. All right, let's get into the highlights.
But last night, a big bipartisan majority of 80 senators voted to proceed. There should be nothing controversial about giving our brave men and women in uniform the tools and training they need to stay safe. There should be nothing controversial about continuing the work of rebuilding and modernizing our capabilities.
Just to clarify, he said that 80 senators voted to proceed to debate the veto override on the National Defense Authorization Act, not to pass the NDAA. It's a little different.
It should be a nonpartisan proposition that America should keep pace with Russia and China rather than slip behind. We've enacted an annual NDAA for 59 straight years and counting. In the next few days, the easy way or the hard way, we're going to do our job once again. This body will...
That's a threat here that even if Bernie Sanders ends up blocking, we're still going to do our job. That's what Mitch McConnell is suggesting.
Fulfill our responsibility to the men and women who protect our country. So the Senate will be here until we finish this bipartisan legislation. Now, for several days, we've heard some senators say Congress must send more cash to high-earning households who haven't seen any income disruption during COVID-19.
And see, this is the politics that pisses me off. It's the other side, the Democrats are not saying, let's send cash to high-income households. Yeah, maybe 5 to 10% of the recipients are going to be deemed to be higher-income households. Okay, then make an amendment. Gosh. And like, I know the House is out until the end of the year, but Nancy can call them back, or until the end of the session. Nancy can call them back. It's not that hard. It's politics.
Our colleagues who purport to be the champions of vulnerable Americans now say that what struggling people really need is for Congress to stop focusing on targeted relief for them specifically and to instead send thousands of dollars to people who don't need the help. Experts from across the political spectrum agree that our colleague from Vermont is dead wrong on this.
Bernie.
Socialism for rich people is a terrible way to help the American families that are actually struggling.
Dude, McConnell, you are so disconnected. Again, so what? Okay, yeah, some people making a couple $100,000 are gonna get reduced stimulus checks. Then amend that. But you were literally slapping 90+% of America in the face by saying this is socialism for rich people. How dare you, Mitch?
So let me say that again. Borrowing from our grandkids to do socialism for rich people is a terrible way to get help to families who actually need it. Washington Democrats took President Trump's suggestion and skewered it so the checks would benefit even more high-earning households. Imagine a family of 5 where the parents earn $250,000 per year and have not seen any income loss this past year. Speaker Pelosi and Senator Sanders want to send them $5,000 from Uncle Sam. They make $250,000. Nobody's out of work, but our so-called progressive friends say the household needs, quote, survival checks. In fact, they believe a family of 5 should have to earn $350,000 before the spigot of government money would stop entirely.
Right, it would be pretty low before that, but this is true. We've got that little calculator I've shown before. Here's Mitch McConnell's math. 3 children, 2 adults, that's $10,000 in total stimulus, 5 people times 2,000. You've got $150,000 phase out. The phase out over the next $100,000 is a loss of $5,000. Boom, you're left over with a $5,000 check. He's not wrong, but again, the percentage of people who are actually going to be in that situation is substantially lower than the percentage of people who are not in that situation.
Socialism for rich people. That's what Speaker Pelosi and Senator Sanders have sketched out. A terrible way to help those who need it. And experts across the political spectrum agree.
So Mitch McConnell goes on and on and on and on about the same crap. So let's listen to Schumer now.
Reason only. The Republican leader has refused to allow us to vote on legislation to provide the American people $2,000 checks. He has twice objected to my requests to set a time for a vote on the measure, claiming yesterday that direct stimulus checks were, quote, poorly targeted, bemoaning the idea that some of the checks might go into, quote, the hands of Democrats' rich friends who don't need the help, unquote. Senator Toomey said much the same thing. Well, funny. I don't remember the Republican leader and Senator Toomey complaining about how a $2 trillion across-the-board corporate tax cut was poorly targeted because some large companies didn't need the help. Nope. When corporations get a blanket tax break, that's fine by the Republican majority. When the average American gets a little help from their government, it's poorly targeted. I hope that every American heard the objections by these Republican senators. I hope every American who has their water or heat or electricity shut off, or had eviction notices stapled on top of one another to their door, or had to choose which meal to skip on a given day. I hope they all heard the reason they will not receive $2,000 checks is because Leader McConnell thinks it could wind up in the hands of, quote, Democrats' rich friends. Now, let's be very clear. There is one way and only one way to pass $2,000 checks before the end of the year, and that's to pass the House bill. It's the only way to get the American people the $2,000 checks they need and deserve. The House is gone for the session. Any modification or addition to the House bill can't become law.
Pelosi can call him back, let's be real.
Either the Senate takes up and passes the House bill, or struggling Americans will not get $2,000 checks during the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And Leader McConnell knows this, so he has said that the Senate can only vote on a bill that combines the checks with other unrelated partisan policies. Repeal Section 230, an investigation into the president's dishonest and bogus claims of election fraud. The Republican leader claims that President Trump insists that all three issues must be addressed in one bill. But of course, the president has made no such demand. President Trump couldn't care less about how the bills are packaged in Congress. So the Republican leader has invented an excuse to prevent a clean up or down, yes or no vote on $2,000 checks coming to the floor. This maneuver to combine all three issues is intended to kill the possibility of $2,000 checks ever becoming law. Just to prove it, let me make this offer to the Republican majority. We're willing to vote on the other issues that President Trump mentioned, all the issues the Republican leader says must be addressed, so long as we vote on them separately. That way, $2,000 checks could become law, and we could debate all the president's supposed concerns.
That's a great suggestion there. Hey, let's vote on $2,000 checks separately. Let's vote on Section 230 separately. And let's vote on the Election Commission separately. That is not a bad suggestion, Schumer.
We can vote on setting up a commission to look at the president's roundly rejected claims of voter fraud. We'd also have the commission look at voter suppression and gerrymandering. That's completely unrelated to help Americans paying their bills. But we're willing to take a look at the whole picture. Just give us a vote on the House-passed bill so we can get help now to people who desperately need it. Heck, we can also have a vote on repealing 230. We can do it today. We'll use Leader McConnell's exact language. But he won't agree to that because he knows his caucus wouldn't actually support such an act. Unlike the president, some members of this body understand what 230 means. They understand that Section 230, which certainly needs change, actually enables the president to spew his lies. We all know the 117th Congress will have to take a close look at the relationship between liability and reckless speech on the internet. But if Leader McConnell wants a vote on these issues, we're here for it. Just give us a vote on the House-passed bill, and we can vote on whatever right-wing conspiracy theory you'd like.
So then Chuck Schumer keeps going about how important it is that we get the $2,000 checks, and he requests unanimous consent to get those checks.
2,000 checks. So, Mr. President, Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of Calendar 645, H.R. 9051, a bill to increase the recovery rebate amounts to $2,000 for individuals, that the bill be read a third time and the Senate vote on passage, and then if passed, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection
McConnell.
is heard. The senator from Vermont.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me briefly respond to some of the points that Majority Leader McConnell has made, his inaccurate statements. Now, I'm delighted that after talking on the floor of the Senate for years about socialism for the rich, apparently that has gotten across to my Republican friends. Of course, that's what we do every single day. That's why we have the incredible level of income and wealth inequality that exists in this country, because decade after decade, we have used this body to provide massive tax breaks to the rich, provided corporate welfare to corporations who don't need it. That is socialism for the rich. Majority Leader is right. But let's talk about, in fact, what is in this bill. According to the Tax Policy Center, less than 1% of the benefits of the direct payments, that's the $2,000 per working class adult that Senator Schumer and I are talking about, less than 1% would go to the top 5% of Americans.
There you go. Okay. All right. So we've got a stat here now. Bernie Sanders coming prepared with the stat. Economic Policy Institute telling us that less than 1% would go to the top 5%. Now, I would say that top 5%, probably a little bit higher in the six-figure echelon. If you did top 10%, you'd probably see like 10% go to the top 10%, so something to that effect. But okay, all right, good. He's got a counter argument at least to McConnell's nonsense, which I've been countering as well, because it's politics. That's what they're doing. They take the extreme and then they argue that. They're not focused on 90% of the truth. It's frustrating.
Virtually nothing goes to the very, very rich. Overwhelming majority of those funds go to the middle class, the working class, low-income people who, in the midst of this pandemic, are in desperate economic condition. Now, again, I am delighted to hear the Majority Leader talking about socialism for the rich, and I hope we will continue that discussion in the next session. So let me talk about the socialism for the rich that the Majority Leader is enthusiastically supportive of. Majority Leader helped lead this body to pass Trump's tax bill. Now, you want to talk about socialism for the rich, Mr. Majority Leader? Under that bill, Charles Koch, one of the very richest people in America, he has a net worth of $113 billion.
Jeez.
That bill gave Mr. Koch a $1.4 billion tax break. Majority Leader, that sounds to me like socialism for the rich. It's now time for the Senate to have that vote. So, Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that at 3 p.m. today, Thursday, December 31st, the Senate proceed to the consideration of calendar number 645, H.R. 9051, to provide a $2,000 direct payment to the working class, that the bill be considered read a third time in the Senate vote on passage of the bill, and that if passed, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table. Further, that following the vote on H.R. 9051, the Senate resume consideration of the veto message on H.R. 6395, the National Defense Authorization Act, and the Senate vote on passage of the bill. The objections of the President to the contrary notwithstanding, all with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection is heard.
Of course.
Thank you, Madam President.
So then we get to some comments from Dick Durbin.
How much they count on us, and frankly, how many of them have given up on us. They just don't believe the Congress of the United States is in touch with the reality of America. If we are in touch with the reality in our home states, in our hometowns, we should do something. something significant to end this new year on the right note. I plead with the Republican leader who has the power, the sole member of Congress of 100 members. He has the power to bring this matter to a vote and to do it immediately, within the hour. We could call the members who've returned to Washington yesterday together, take a vote soon in a matter of minutes, and know once and for all whether we have 60 votes that are necessary to pass this measure. And then we can pass the override of the president's veto of the defense authorization bill, a critical piece of legislation. That would be the right way to end this year. Let us not end it in suspense as to whether or not we're going to come to the aid and assistance of American families who rely on us time and again to be there when America needs a helping hand. Let's do our job. Let's fill this chamber with senators who actually vote on an issue that makes a difference in the lives of Americans. That's what we were elected to do. We have no excuse if we fail. I yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.
All right, so those were the highlights. Now here's what the schedule is, and this is going to seem crazy. There's probably going to be some more discussion on the floor throughout the day today. At some point, there will be more debate. We'll see more of that. The next vote could be scheduled for literally as late as 1 a.m. tonight. And Mitch McConnell could literally be scheduling it for 1 a.m. to purposefully try to end what he is expecting to be Bernie Sanders' filibuster. That is, Bernie Sanders might literally just try to take the floor for as long as possible, as many hours as possible, and Mitch McConnell's going to try to use whatever tricks he has up his sleeve to get a vote scheduled for 1 a.m. That is 1 a.m. New Year's Day. If the vote passes to limit debate, which is usually called invoking cloture, that takes 60 votes to do, which we expect some Democrats will eventually end up voting yes on that, just to A, like, be done or get this done, but also B, I think some Democrats are going to get worn down and realize, I don't think we're going to end up getting the $2,000 checks, so let's just vote to do the NDAA. Hopefully, though, and it's possible that Democrats stay united and say, nope, just not doing the NDAA unless you give us the vote on the $2,000. That's the hope. We'll see, but this vote could literally happen at 1 a.m., which is insane, and it's just gamesmanship to try to get basically all this stuff done, although each side could say they're playing games with each other, but the rules in the Senate are wonky. Then, if they do limit debate at this 1 a.m. vote, which is just the tentative schedule, this could always change, then they will set up for a final veto override vote on Saturday, which will take a 2/3 majority vote. If they pass this on Saturday, there's no more leverage to get the 2K checks. This session of Congress will be over. And that means nothing's going to happen until the Georgia 5th runoff election. And that's where maybe we could see that Democrats end up winning and bringing up the 2K again. We'll see what happens. If it's Mitch McConnell again, it'll be a negotiation with Biden. Thanks for watching, folks. Consider subscribing if you found this helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.